welcome back to another episode of the From the Farm Yard podcast. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about things that you may want to know before you get chickens. So let's just say you want to keep chickens. It's that time of year, you're going into your local farm store and you're hearing the chicks, they're peeping, and it's like, man, I think it'd be cool to get some chickens. Well, everyone is buying chickens right now to start their own backyard flock, but there are a couple things you should know before getting these feathery friends. Now, we have had chickens for a number of years now and have learned quite a few things. We have educated ourselves in a lot of areas, and we've learned a lot of new things that we wish we would have known beforehand. So, here is a list of things that we wish we would have known before getting chickens, and hopefully this helps you out and gives you some more insight before you bring home those cute little chicks. So you want to start us off?
Yes. The first thing is knowing your laws or your local laws, really. If you are in a neighborhood like I am, you will most likely be restricted to either 4 or 6 hens. It's different places, but around here I've heard 4 and 6, just depending. Also, are you even allowed to keep them? If you live in an area that has an HOA, you might not be able to have chickens at all, and that's something that you might want to look into. But also, I found that looking on like the website for the ordinances and the laws and everything, it's not 100% up to date. So you might want to call your zoning office, and I would recommend doing that, is calling your zoning office, asking them if you can have chickens, and if not, can you keep ducks, or can you keep quail, or another sort of poultry. And if they say no, that sucks. It does, but sometimes no has to be the best answer. So if you can't do that, support someone locally, maybe someone in a neighborhood, and like a neighborhood over from you or 2 neighborhood over from you, whatever. See if they have chickens, and then you can buy eggs from them. And it might even be saving you money that way too, because you're not having to buy a coop or build a coop or and then that's feed and all that. So if you can't keep chickens, try to support somebody who is, and then if they have a rooster or whatever, then when you do get your own land or however things work out, maybe you are able to get chickens from them if they have a rooster, and then you can start your own flock from theirs.
Exactly. So it's looking at your local laws. See, for us, we live in basically the middle of the woods, so we don't have laws or ordinances necessarily that keep us to, we're only allowed 20 birds. I've got like 90 on my property right now. It's a lot. So yeah, especially if you live in a town or neighborhood and stuff like that, make sure to look that up, because you need to make sure that you can even keep them.
Yeah, and even before that, I'm going to say this because if you're watching and you're wanting to get chickens or you're looking to get something else, when you are doing any sort of zoning, or if you're looking for new property, and I feel like we've talked about this before, and it's off topic from this video, but sometimes certain properties have certain restrictions on what you can keep. Like some properties, it says on there that you're not allowed to have hogs or cattle or anything like that. So look at that in case you are wanting to keep things like that. Ask if there are any restrictions, because if there's 2 properties you're looking at and one has restrictions and you end up getting that one, that's going to suck for you. And you would have much rather gone with the other one that doesn't have any restrictions or less strict about it.
Right. So look at all your local laws and stuff before you get into all that. But the next thing is research your chicken breeds. My dad went into a Tractor Supply and came across this couple, and they wanted these chickens for the first time. And they were about to get Cornish cross broilers, and they thought that those were egg layers. And my dad's like, you know, those are meat birds, right? And they're like, oh, we didn't know that. So right there's an example of these people wanted to get chicks, but they didn't know what they were getting into. They were going to bring home meat birds, and these birds were going to get all fat, and they're like, these don't lay eggs, or they would just realize that, and they'd be like, oh man, we should have done the research before going into it. So research what breeds you want and what work best for your area, because there are different climates and there are different zones that some chickens may like warmer weather than they like colder. They may do better in winter climates than they do in warmer. So also, some chickens, you may want a dual purpose bird. You may want something that will lay but will also be for meat. You want a good egg producer. You want a friendly bird. There's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different personalities when it comes to chickens. So researching breeds before you go and get them is always a wise decision. That way you know what you're getting into. And we have a video on that. I can link it, or I'll put it at the end. We have a whole chicken keeping playlist. I'll link it at the end of this video that you can check out. But it talks about all the different chicken breeds and, what's best for you. But ultimately, do your own research, whatever fits your needs best. We say that all the time.
Yeah. And it is a lot of researching, because if you want something that's going to be best with producing eggs, you might want to go with the white leghorn. Or if someone in my family won't eat brown eggs, and someone in my family won't, not like immediate family, like cousins, things like that, they won't eat brown eggs and they won't eat blue or green eggs, which I understand. It's a little weird. They taste the exact same though. So if you want something that's going to lay really well, maybe white leghorns are the best option for you. Or if you want a colorful flock, Easter eggers are good.
Right.
If you want dark brown eggs, or if you want a mixture of all, get a white leghorn, a black copper moran, some Easter eggers, and anything else. And when you're ordering from a hatchery, it's a little bit easier to see like everything laid out in front of you. Whereas if you go into a farm store, they're gonna have whatever written on that plaque, and that's it. So I would almost suggest, if it's your first time getting chicks, ordering them, because I feel like that's a little bit easier, unless you've done like a lot of research, or if you're going to sit in the store for a minute and research what breeds. You can even call ahead and ask them.
That's what we do.
Hey, what breeds do you have? Yeah. And call them. When I
did that, because I wanted some chicks, and there was like 3 different Tractor Supplies, and each had different varieties. So I looked up all the different breeds that were in these 3 separate Tractor Supplies, and I found, well, what's going to be the best egg layer and what's going to be something that would work better on my farm. And we ended up choosing a local Tractor Supply, and now we have 4 chicks that we brought home, and they're going to be great egg layers, and they're good for our area and our zone. So definitely researching ahead would definitely be a good idea.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to sit in the store and do that, but also, like we said, call ahead. I called different ones because I was wanting to get, like, I don't want just a boring, quote unquote, boring flock. I don't want all of one color or like 2 or 3 colors. So I like having Easter eggers, the white leghorns, different things that are going to grow up and feather out completely different. We were looking for some gray hens, and I knew that I wanted the sapphire gem, or I think it's blue rock, but it was a different name before that. I think they've changed it, or it's more common by the blue rock now. But I called them and they had them, and I think we drove like 30 minutes, if that. I don't think it was quite that far, but we drove a little bit to get them. But I knew what I was wanting, and that one was just the one that had them. I already had the chicks, and I was like, I don't want to wait for another one to get them and me not be able to get what I want now and have to do 2 separate brooding areas. So it was just easier on me to call ahead. I knew what I wanted, and it was easier. And if you have any questions, reach out to a breeder, or it doesn't have to be a breeder. Someone who has chickens is most likely going to be fairly experienced in this area.
Yeah.
Chickens are the gateway drug to farming. That's literally what they are. They're the gateway drug to farming. So anybody who has a farm, they've most likely had chickens, or if they have chickens, you can ask them questions.
YouTube, don't flag us for that. It's not real. Like, don't flag us for that. Chickens are just very addicting.
They are, and that's a point later on for everybody. Am I
Um,
going next, or do you want to?
you can.
Okay. The next one is a efficient coop setup,
Hmm.
or whichever way you want to word it. But efficient coop setup is something that you need to look at.
Definitely. That's
My
huge for me. That's huge for me because we had a big coop and I'm just a short little girl, guys. I'm very short. And so cleaning out the coop was a pain in the butt. But from that experience of our old coop, we now have a coop in our barn that's floor level. You walk right in, all I have to do is shovel. So learning that, obviously, whenever we first got chickens, I would have known. I wouldn't have known all the hard work that it goes into keeping a coop clean. Didn't realize that. This comes with chicken keeping, y'all. You gotta shovel manure. You gotta get in there and you gotta clean it out. It's nasty at first. Over time, it doesn't get as bad. You look and you got chicken crap on your pants. It's like, man, that stinks. Like whatever.
exactly
At this point, you get used to it. But planning ahead and being like, what's gonna be the most efficient and what's gonna be the most like resourceful, what's going to work best for the space. So doing the research and getting a functioning coop that's easy to maintain.
for
Sorry,
sure. You're
continue.
good. You're good. And then if you are going to expand, or you are scared me, who if you are going to expand later on, like if you are living on more property and you want to start out with like 6 to 10 hens, you might want to go with a bigger space if you know that you're going to expand later in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, in the future, you might want to just check. Or because when we first started out, we had a coop that could do, I think it was, sorry,
God bless you.
a coop that could hold, thank you, a coop that could hold 10 birds, I think. And we quickly outgrew that quickly.
Yeah.
So we ended up having to buy 2 other coops to be able to hold what we had gotten. And that wasted us money in the beginning, because if we would have
Yeah.
known what I was going to get into, we could have got something larger from the very beginning. We would have been fine. But it's all worked out. Everything does it. It always works out though. But definitely look at what you have. You want it to be easy to clean out. You want to make sure that it's gonna stay warm for the winter. You want it to stay cool in the summer,
Yep.
and you want something that's gonna be able to house all of your birds. If
Right.
you Even if you have a lot of birds, you can get away with a smaller space if you have just roosting bars in there and nesting boxes.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need the largest coop. But if you're housing ducks, ducks don't sleep on a roosting bar. They sleep on the ground. But this is not a duck episode, so we'll get back into the chickens. But definitely just think about things. And if you have questions, we've said this last couple topics, just ask anybody, and like
Right.
anybody who has chickens, and I'm sure they'll help you. And if you want to like run plans by them or something, ask them that, and most likely they'll be able to help you. And if they don't, you can always message one of us. We will
Exactly.
we will help you.
We want to educate and we want to help you guys. And this is why we're doing this episode, because there are things that we've learned over time that we wish we would have known beforehand. So, next, to go along with coops, let's talk about predators and safety. There's a lot of things that want to eat a chicken. There are a lot of things. And it can be dependent upon where you live. See, because I live in the middle of the woods, I have coyotes, I have raccoons, I have skunks, I have foxes, I've got owls, I've got hawks. I mean, a bunch of stuff. I got a whole bunch of stuff. And thank goodness my birds have been smart enough and they outrun predators, or we haven't had a lot of casualties like that. But there are things like predator proofing your coop that you can do. If you have a lot of aerial predators like hawks, you can take bird netting and put it over their runway. That way the hawk is not getting into the pen and killing your birds. If you have something that's digging under the coop, you could put fence along the edges and bury it, and then that's harder for them to get through. Make sure your doors are locked properly. There's no cracks, there's no holes that a small animal could fit through. Make sure if you close your birds up, make sure you're closing them up at the proper time, because you don't want owls to fly in, you don't want coyotes to get in, any nocturnal predators. I'm telling you, there's a lot of things that want your chickens and they want them dead.
There are. Yeah.
So just be mindful of that and be careful and really chart out every possible way that a predator could get into your coop, because if there's a single way, guarantee you're probably going to have one casualty because of that little flaw.
Yeah.
So really look over your whole coop setup and plan out what's going to be best to predator proof it to its best ability.
And I'll explain my chicken coop first. First. It was a dog kennel that we got. It's a 10 by 10 foot by 10 foot, just dog pen, kennel, whatever. And our dogs could escape out of it every single time. So it quickly did not become what they were going to be in. And they're inside now, so they don't really need that. So we converted it into a chicken coop, and the holes on like the chain link fence are pretty sizable. I mean, anything can reach its paw, its grubby little paws into your coop, grab a bird and injure them or kill them. So we did, I can't really see from where I am, but I think we used chicken wire on like the bottom 4 foot, and then everything else I just left the same because of how we have it. We have the aviary netting on top because we have so many hawks here. And then around the bottom, because I have the run, it is chicken wire on the outside of that too. I put chicken wire all the way around the bottom. I think it was the last 2 foot. So when my ducks are sleeping outside, they can sleep up against the fence and nothing is going to sit there and grab them. Now, I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but it's less likely to. We also put it like where you were talking about it, where you can bury it. We have it like that, and then it goes down into the ground right here on the bend, and then it's just underneath. So if anything that's digging, it's going to be, it has to dig farther, and it's going to hit that and be like, okay, whatever.
Right.
But that's what we've done, and I have to...
Anything to deter or to keep them away, keep them out of. That's your best bet, because you don't want your birds dead. It's terrible when that happens.
And a lot of people are going to say that chicken wire isn't the right thing to use because it's really not the right thing to use if you're trying to keep everything out. It's more so for keeping your birds in. It's not going to keep predators out. It's you can pull it apart with your hands. So if you are going to look at something that you really want to absolutely guarantee that nothing is going to be able to get into, 1/2 inch hardware cloth is, I think it's a 1/2 inch. That sounds right. 1/2 inch hardware cloth is the best thing. It might be a little bit more expensive. It's been a long time since I've had to get any. But if it's more expensive, it's definitely worth keeping your birds safe than having to start over every year or however long. So weigh the pros and cons and see what predators are around you.
Yeah, common in your area and what's really gonna come at your pen. So this is a huge topic, but we're gonna go over it briefly and quickly. So let's talk about chicken health problems. There's a lot I didn't know whenever we first got chickens, that there's a lot of health problems, and it can come on your flock very quickly. And there's things you have to learn. I really didn't think that I was going to become a vet, like a chicken backyard poultry vet, but I've learned so much, and I've really educated myself, and now I'm here to educate you all. We have a full video on a different variety of chicken health issues that will be linked at the end of this video as well. So we're not going to get into that necessarily, but just pre-warning before you get chickens, be prepared that illnesses can come onto your flock and they can attack your flock. Just be prepared for that, and just know that sometimes you may have to do some disgusting things.
Yes, there are a lot of different things And there are like to help prevent or not to prevent, or to help prevent or completely erase that aspect of it. But we do have the video, like we said. I am going to touch on one thing that we didn't touch on in the video because I was not knowledgeable. I don't think either of us really were, but it's the Merrick's vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
What the vaccine does, it doesn't like make them immune to getting Merrick's at all. It just means that if they get Merrick's, they're less likely to die from it.
And if you don't know what
So,
Merrick's disease is, it is a poultry disease.
yeah. So
So
if you're going to get it for the purpose of making sure your flock is immune to it, they're not going to be immune to it. It just means that they're less likely to die. So maybe you don't want to do it. That's fine. But also, if you're going to get vaccinated birds, only get vaccinated birds from then on out. Don't go from vaccinated to unvaccinated and then back and forth. So Tractor Supply does not sell vaccinated chicks. Why? I don't really know. I just know that they don't. So if you're getting chicks from Tractor Supply, then they're not vaccinated. Now, when you're ordering them, I think when I ordered mine, it asked if I wanted to vaccinate mine or not, and I said no, just because of my own personal reasons for not doing it. But yeah,
if
do
that's
your own research on
something
that.
if that's
Yeah.
something you're interested in, or you want to prevent it that way it doesn't happen on your farm,
Yeah.
weigh the pros and cons to it, do the research on it. So yeah, just look it up for yourself.
Mhm.
But the last three are pretty fly through. They're not really anything crazy, but like whenever you're getting hens, they lay eggs, right? That's typically the main reason people are getting chickens is for eggs. Hens don't lay year round. Every single day, all year, they don't, okay? They don't. We didn't know that. We didn't know that. We just would go out to the coop and be like, man, chickens are really, they just kind of stopped laying. First year they were doing good. Second year, good. But third year, it went back down at a certain time. And that certain time is typically fall and winter. Chickens go through a thing called molting. It only lasts for a couple weeks or a month, or depending on the chicken breed. Sometimes it can last a long time. But they go through a period where they lose their feathers. And because there's so much energy going into the process of growing out the winter feathers, they kind of put off laying eggs. It also has stuff to do with lighting and how the lighting changes, because in winter there's less daylight hours than there is in summer. So I think we have a video, we've touched on it before, with
Yeah.
molting. Like I said, everything will be linked at the end. But just ahead of time, hens don't lay year round.
Yeah. And the next thing is chickens can be destructive.
Yes.
That is very, very,
Yes.
very true.
We had to put fence up on our porch because our chickens were getting on the porch and getting in our flower pots and getting dirt all over. We have to put fence around our gardens because they scratch all the seeds out of there, scratch all the plants and get dirt everywhere. They're very messy, very destructive.
They are. They will roost anywhere, and when they're sleeping, they poop more when they're sleeping. So you will know where a chicken roosts.
Yeah.
For sure. They will completely decimate an area. Like I have mine in one area. If it's a good day and I can let them out, I'll let them out. But for the most part, they stay in there just because the hawks are so bad. And we have 6 hawks now, and then we've had a bald eagle flying around for a few months. I'm not losing one to a bird. So I'm out here supervising, or it's late at night when all I can do is open the door and they'll all go back naturally. But that whole area that they're at, it's bare dirt. That's what it is. You can't help it. That's just how chickens are. But I also do things, and that goes into the diet thing, which we're not touching on this, but like our yard is really grown up right now because our lawnmower is broken. So I'm picking the extra grass when it gets too tall, and they're getting what they need still, or I'm pulling out chunks of dirt from my garden, or
Right.
things like that. So
Right.
they're getting what they need. It's just be extra mindful of that, where you might want to give extra treats or
Mm-hmm.
more food at once that hits.
If
But
you
do you want,
if you free range, they're not going to be killing your grass, but if you're moving them in chicken tractors where they're like standardized, moving them daily will help from it destroying your yard. But
yeah,
then over the years, that poop will fertilize your lawn, and then you'll have lush green grass the next year. So, yeah, but chickens are very destructive little creatures. Love them, but man, do they know how to dig things up.
yeah, they will create holes everywhere. They will eat your vegetables. They will mess up any ornamental plants that you have.
They will peck you and bite your lip, and yeah, yeah. But anyway, that was off topic. But very destructive, very crazy little animals. But the final thing is when you start getting chickens and you start chicken keeping, man, it's a good idea that you have in your mind. Oh, I'm only getting 4. I'm only getting 4. We're just gonna have a couple eggs in the fridge just to, just enjoy the experience of backyard chicken keeping. Yeah. In a year, tell me how that's going for you. Because can guarantee you do not have 4 anymore. If you really love chickens that much, maybe you hated them. But if you like fall in love with chickens like we did, yeah, we don't have 4 anymore. Started with 4, and now I'm up to 90. Not all laying hens, but like lots of chickens. We like chickens around here, and definitely, and we just keep getting more because chickens are just such a fun experience. We love
Yeah.
going out into our backyard and getting eggs and seeing where the eggs are coming from, knowing that they're being raised right in my backyard. I know what I'm feeding them, I know what's going into their body. So it's all a great experience. I've learned a lot, they've taught me a lot, and just love chickens, but can guarantee chicken math is a real thing. It's a real thing.
Chicken math very much is. Because if you only got white leghorns at first, and you're like, well, I want some brown egg layers, or you see those
Exactly.
blue and green eggs on Instagram, you're like, I want those blue and green eggs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You
The
want to
first,
experience all the different breeds, all the varieties.
yes. When you're doing things like, no, this is where I wanted to go with that. If you Most people who are keeping chickens, they get into the mindset, everybody does it, so nobody here can argue with it. I mean, maybe you haven't, but majority of people get into this headspace. Get a rooster, or you start selling eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And then, or you get the rooster and you start hatching out eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to sell chicks. It's going to be it's going to be really profitable. You're going to make all the money back. In some cases, yes. In very few cases, you can,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time, that's not how it is.
Right.
So account for that, because you're either not going to have the people buying them, and then you're raising out more birds, or something
Right.
happens, and yeah,
So I think
or
we
you're
all
not going to have the
have
customers buying.
right. We all have an initial idea in our head what we want to do with our chickens whenever we first get them. Whether it's for breeding, hatching, selling, chickens, eggs, whatever your preference is, whatever you're getting them for, can guarantee your mindset's probably going to change over the couple years. So just keep that in mind. Chicken math is very real. And along with coops and stuff, we said, I mean, if you think that you're really going to get into it, bigger coop, the better. That way you can just always add more, sneak a couple in, just
Exactly. Like
exactly.
this year, I said I wasn't getting any more chicken.
Oh, that's bull.
No,
You say it,
we
and then it's like,
we all know this, but I said at first, I was like, I'm not going to get any more chickens, and then I made up my mind. And I was like, well, if they have this certain breed, I'll get a few of that breed.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had that breed, but then they had another breed that I really wanted.
This is
And
how
then
it works, guys, from
yeah,
personal experience. This is
it
how
is.
it works.
And then a couple weeks later, I went in there and they had the cutest little white Easter egger chick. But you can't just buy one; you have to buy four. So then
And
I bought
that's
four
where they
more.
get you. That's where they get you.
Absolutely, it's always one that you really want, and then it's the four.
And then you got to get the
But
four other ones. They just got to tag along. Oh,
exactly, but
well. Oh, well.
it's a dangerous road to go down.
But it's fun, and the experience is fun.
It is,
Definitely recommend chicken keeping.
and you never really regret it. I don't feel like. I mean, when feed prices went up, a lot of people regretted it, but that's a whole separate video. But I mean, you never really regret it. They all have such different personalities, and unless you really just hate them or you just don't like them,
They're fun to work with too.
they're nice.
They teach you
They are.
responsibility and how to care for an animal. I never knew how to care for animals, and then I got chickens, and it really taught me a lot of responsibility and taking care of. And I educate myself because I want to learn more and I want to take better care of my birds. So chicken keeping, highly recommend. It's a lot of fun.
And before we close out, it is like I said earlier, I referenced it and I should not have, but it is the first animal that you get on a homestead, really, or
You
your first
referenced it better
experience
there.
into homesteading.
You referenced it better there.
But it is, I mean, I did, I really did. But it is, I mean, it's the first experience that a lot of people have is chicken keeping, and then they realize their world opens up a little bit more. And for that, I'm always going to be appreciative of having chickens. I'm always going to have chickens. And yeah, they're just really cool.
They are. They're fun. So I think that's everything for today's episode. We hope that you guys enjoyed it and that you've learned a few things and that you know now going into it, maybe you're even more confident, like, yes, I want chickens. But maybe you're like, well, let's hold back a minute and let's do some more research on this. So that's why we're here to educate you and to pre-warn you that getting into chickens can be a lot, but it's also a great experience and it's a lot of fun. And we hope that you do get chickens because definitely worth it. Definitely a fun experience.
For sure. And we have videos all linked. We have a video going over breeds, what to get, like production rates of everything, of things that we have. It's not going off of an online list of birds that we don't have. So it's fairly accurate, temperament-wise, all that. But you can find that in the playlist. And is that everything?
Yep, I think that's everything for today's episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Yeah, thank y'all for watching.